We have a very controversial book to talk about today. It's called Fake by Robert Kiyosaki. Fake money, fake teachers, fake assets. I mean, this guy, some of the greatest authors of all time, call out their enemies like none other. And the people that don't like it freaking hate those guys. But the people that love hearing that love them even more. Robert Kiyosaki is one of those people. Grant Cardone is another one of those people. There are people like that call out their haters so well and say, this is wrong what you're doing and you should be doing this. And it just is so intoxicating. Well, Fake is one of those books that you have to read. It is so well written. Even if you don't believe in his philosophy, which I don't know how you couldn't believe, it's so simple and so logical. But even if you don't, it's one of those good books to understand where the opposing side is standing, because he lays out his philosophy so clearly. So let's dive into it. Here's my review on the book. He breaks it out into 3 sections. 1 is fake money, 2, fake teachers, and then 3, fake assets. The first one, in fake money, he talks about the difference between currency and money. And you might be thinking, oh, it's the same thing, currency and money. It's not. Currency is a made up system to exchange wealth, like U.S. dollars, yen, pesos, euros, everything that's Bitcoin, Ethereum, all those things that are made by man, and that can be created. That's called currency. Money, on the other hand, are things that cannot be created, mainly gold and silver. And he calls it throughout the book God's money versus people's money. And you know an interesting fact? I found this very interesting. Out of the thousands and thousands of currencies that have ever been made in the history of the earth, do you know how many have survived? Meaning that they've gone on, that they were invented and they still are alive today, other than the ones that have recently been made in the past 100 years. 0 have gone on and survived. 0. No currency has ever survived the test of time. That's pretty crazy. But you know, on the money side with gold and silver, it has always succeeded. Every single civilization in human history has used gold and silver as their form of exchange, as their money. And every single time that this currency collapses, it always goes back to gold and silver. And you might be asking yourself, why does it go back to gold and silver? Why? I was talking with somebody the other day and they were joking around about, oh yeah, I'm going to invest in gold and silver, haha. What are you talking about? Why is that funny? Because today, gold and silver is seen as something that's primitive, that we used to use in the olden days, and now we're advanced. We're above that. We use computers and we use numbers. Well, the entire system is collapsing before our eyes. And Robert Kiyosaki puts that out very clearly, how we are just spending our way, just like every single other nation, Germany, Rome, Greece, Egypt, has spent their way to oblivion, and their currencies literally collapse underneath themselves. And I'll give you a simple example of why. One of the main reasons that currencies collapse, people's money fails, and God's money succeeds, and he calls it God's money because it was here before humans. It was here before anybody else, and it will be here way longer than anybody else is still on the earth. It will always be, gold and silver will always be on the earth. Whereas man's money is just invented, it's created. Well, one of the main reasons that people's money fails and God's money doesn't is that God's money you cannot reproduce. There's only a set amount of gold and silver on the earth. You cannot create more of it. Whereas people's money, you can always create more. So I'll give you a simple example. Let's say we're playing Monopoly, because that's what it is. It's Monopoly money. You might as well be trading monopoly money with somebody when you go to the grocery store, because that's as good as the US dollar, as the yen, as the euro, as the peso, as every single currency on the planet. You might as well be trading monopoly money. Let's say we're playing Monopoly, and there are three of us playing Monopoly. Well, we all start off with, at the beginning of the game, you all start off with like 1,000 Monopoly money, right? Well, let's say you're going along, and I decide, I'm playing with two other people, I decide that I want to get another Monopoly board out, and I take $50,000 and put it in front of me. And they're like, well, what the freak? Where did you get that money? They're like, I just got it. I made it myself. And they're like, you can't make that. That's cheating. Inherently, we know that in Monopoly, that's cheating. You didn't earn that money. And what it does is it devalues their money. If there's only $3,000 total in the game, that's as much money as everyone has. So I have a third of the wealth, let's say, in 1,000 out of $3,000. Well, if I bring $50,000, now I have $51,000, and each of them have $1,000. Now I essentially own 98% of all of the money, because I just invented the money. I didn't do anything. I just printed it. I just created it out of thin air. But it makes their money worthless. It literally makes other people's money worthless, and that's exactly what's going on today. Fake money. You got to read this book. It's excellent. This next section is on fake teachers. What does he mean by fake teachers? He calls out all the teachers that the phrase, those who can't do, teach. Those who can do, those who can't teach. And those who can't teach Jim, as Jack Black once said. And the phrase, it doesn't apply to all teachers. It only applies to the teachers who are being fake, who haven't made it in their lives, and they're trying to tell other people what to do. It would be like if I was telling you, here's what to do to be a millionaire, and I'm so great, and I know I haven't been a millionaire. I don't know those steps. I'm going to be very soon, but I'm not there right now. And so I can't tell you, I can't teach you to do something I haven't already done. I can, but it's fake. And there are so many fake teachers in the public school systems, in the public square, that go on TV that tell you, oh yeah, the sky is falling. You need to do this with your money, or you need to do this with your legalities, or you need to invest in these kind of assets. Have you done it yourself? Have you succeeded? And the majority of people have not. They're fake teachers. There's something. The other day I was on a conversation I was having this conversation with this guy, and he was asking. He was like, "So what do you do with your business operations? And what do you do with your finance? What do you do with your legal?" And I was explaining everything that I did and all the success stories I've had and all the failures that I've had, and I was just explaining everything. And at the very end of the call, he asked me, he's like, "So what do you do with marketing?" And I started to explain. I was like, honestly, that's something that I'm really working on right now. I don't think I could give you the best advice on marketing because I'm not at the level where I want to be. I think that there are many other people that are more educated than I am on marketing. I feel like I have strengths in these other categories I shared, but this is something I'm still learning about. Come and ask me in a few months or in a year from now, and I'm sure I'm gonna have a better reason or explanation for you. I can explain more, but right now I don't feel that. That's what our teachers should be doing. When they don't know something, they shouldn't act as if they know it. Does that make sense? They shouldn't act as if, oh yeah, I know the answer, but you haven't done it yourself. How do you actually know? Because you haven't done it. That's called a fake teacher. And the last section is fake assets. One of my favorite sections. There's only 3, so it has to be one of them. Fake assets. The main principle he explains in this is, what is the difference between an asset and a liability? Can you explain that to me? What's the difference between an asset and a liability? And he says, it's very simple. An asset puts money in your pocket, A liability takes money out of your pocket. That's it. It's that simple. So I can look at a simple example. Let's say I have a business, and this business I just barely started, and it's costing me $10,000 a month to run, and I only make $8,000 a month. Is that an asset or a liability? Well, you might say, well, it's a business, so it's an asset. Is it really? It's taking money out of my wallet every single month. It's a liability. I might be striving to make it an asset, but right now it's a liability. And if I fool myself into thinking that this is an asset when really it's a fake asset, it's actually a liability, it's costing me money every single month, I am going to get more poor and more poor and more poor and not be able to support myself, support my family, support my extended family, support my friends, support my community because I have fake assets. One of the biggest fake assets that people think is an asset and it's really a liability is your home. Unless your home is making you money every single month as a rental property or as something else where you're making money from your home, it is a liability. Now, it's very important to note that liabilities aren't necessarily bad. It's important to know that you have them. Don't fool yourself into thinking that your home is an asset. And he says in his book, he says that the bank will trick you and say your home is your greatest asset or your home is an asset. They just don't tell you whose asset it is. It's the bank's asset because they're making money, but it's your liability. They just don't tell you whose asset it is. Because if one man's liability is another man's asset. If your money is going, it's going to someone else. So there's always the end. Where is the money flowing? Is it flowing to you or is it flowing away from you? So for example, food that you buy at the grocery store, those are financial liabilities. If you lie to yourself and you say those are financial assets, you are going to become more and more poor. And that's what he explains. Knowing the difference between an asset, putting money in your wallet, and a liability, taking money out of your wallet. Overall, this book is a 10 out of 10. It's on my top 10 book list. I love this book. You gotta pick it up either on Audible, you can listen to it, or you can buy it on Amazon and read the book. But please, I highly recommend reading this book. Good luck to you. I love to hear your thoughts. If you've already read it or if you haven't read it, please go out, read it, and then please comment below. I love to hear your thoughts.